and welcome back to my channel, Right with Mona. Today's video is about writing for specific age groups. I hope you enjoy this as much as I enjoy bringing it to you. When writing for specific age groups, there are various things that you need to take into consideration. Understanding your audience is one of them. Also, age-specific book categories. That means that you have to write for an age group that will relate to the story that you're trying to get across to that particular audience in that particular age group. Writing styles and structures, themes, and emotional connections. You have to have a connection with that audience also. And the theme is very important because someone might be interested in, say, romance or a children's book that deals with teaching children how to do their ABCs. Also, presentation and the formatting is very important. Okay, now, understanding the audience. This is very important because at different age groups, they have different characteristics that pertain to that particular audience. You have to study their cognitive abilities, their interests, and also the challenges for each age. Reading levels and comprehension is also very important because you have to make sure that the vocabulary sentence structure is proper for that particular age group, and the storytelling is complex. The storytelling complexity matches that targeted audience. There's also the emotional and social development of that particular age group. You have to address the themes and conflicts that can resonate with that specific age group. Now I'm going into the age-specific book categories. Board books are from ages 0 to 3. Sometimes it goes up to 6. It depends on what type of story you're trying to tell and the specific age group you're trying to reach. Picture books, ages 3 to 7. Early readers books is another category from age 5 to 9. Chapter books go from age 7 to 10, and middle grade books 8 to 12. Then you get into the young adult books, 12 to 18, and lastly, the adult fiction, nonfiction, 18 and older. Word books from 0 to 3, sometimes up to 6 or 7, you have to use simple words that engage in engaging illustrations and also the interactive elements. Pickamoo is a great example of this. This is about animals with different sounds, and it's great for this age group because children have fun making different noises, animal noises, and it's very exciting, and it helps them develop their cognitive learning skills. Also, Josephine, I Can Help, is a STEM group book that deals with a little girl, and she feels that she could take on the world. She could do anything. Picture books ages 3 from 7, you use short sentences and also rhythmic and repetitive storytelling. This helps the child comprehend and understand what it is that you're trying to get across in that specific book. Also, you have to use very colorful illustrations. Not all the time, but most of the time in picture books, you use colorful illustrations. The Very Hungry Caterpillar is a great example because children love this book, and it deals with a caterpillar who eats his way through, he eats leaves until he's developed into a beautiful butterfly. Early readers, ages 5 to 9. In this category, you use basic vocabulary. Plots are simpler, you use larger fonts, and this typically is an introduction to the chapter books. My Brother Charlie is a great example for early readers. This book is written by a famous actress. Her name is Holly Robinson Peete. Chapter books usually range from 7 to 10, and the plots are slightly more complex, and the protagonist is more relatable to that age specific group. And usually it discusses things that are going on in the world at a particular time. Leon, best friend, worst friends forever. This book is about a little boy. He's a superhero, but his best friend doesn't know he's a superhero. And but his best friend realizes that there's something that's going on with his friend. He can't put his finger on it. Legends of Lotus Island. This is another great example of a chapter book. Usually middle grade books, their age ranges from 8 to 12 years of age. They're usually adventurous and it talks about friendships and some of the challenges that the child may have. And sometimes they try to make it humorous to engage the plot line. The Misfits, this is a good book because it also deals with, adventures and challenges of children at this age level. Now we get into young adults, ages 12 to 18. It's very emotional, in depth, and identity exploration happens in these types of stories. Sometimes it deals with romance, and other times it deals with peer complexes. The Stars Beneath Our Feet is a great example. Another great example is The Edge of Water. Lastly, we have adult fiction, nonfiction, and which age ranges from 18 years and above. Usually the themes are varied and there's deeper character development, meaning that you go into a deeper storyline and you deal with true life situations. Sometimes they're fiction and sometimes they're nonfiction. The narratives are usually more complex in their structure also. The Twilight Saga is a great example. This is a book that was written into a movie, that was turned into a movie. It deals with romance between two teenage adults. One is a vampire and one is just a regular child. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind is another good example. Now I'm going to discuss the writing style and the structure for writing for specific age groups. Language and vocabulary. You have to adjust the complexity based on cognitive developments. That means the understanding of the audience that you're trying to reach. The sentence structure and pacing is also short and punchy for the younger readers, and then it's more deeper and complex for the older audiences. Their dialogue and voice is usually natural in speech, but it reflects the age of that group. And point of view, you usually choose the first person for deeper emotional connections. Young adults and third persons omniscience for world building and uh, middle grade and adult books. Going into theme and emotional connections. You have to use topics that resonate with the reader. Childhood adventures are usually discussed, school conflicts, and first loves are a lot of times needed. Family structures and society issues, excuse me. Handling sensitive subjects is another important aspect. You have to present difficult topics and thoughtfully execute them within your writing style. Also, if you have to make sure you're writing for this specific audience. Morals and lessons versus interpretation is another example for themes and emotional connections. Younger audiences may benefit from more clearer morals, and older readers appreciate nuances and more complexity in the storytelling. Presentations and formats. Your illustrations and designs are usually for your younger audiences, but they're less impactful for the older audiences. Typography and layouts is you use large fonts, usually white space for the earlier readers are very important. Traditional formatting for older ages. And the reason why the white space is important for the early readers is because sometimes if the font is too close together, it kind of messes up their eyes when they're reading. And the white space helps it space out the wording, and that way they can like use the wording to keep up the pace. So it's very essential that your words are not cluttered together. Interactive elements. Word books may include textures, and middle grade novels may have more graphics. For young adult books, you can integrate multimedia references, and that will change the style, also the font, and sometimes the message will get across clear to that specific age group. We'll be discussing some of the examples of good and bad writing for specific age groups. For word books, a good example for the language that you should use is usually simpler. And this is peekaboo. This is a great example of the language that should be used for this specific age group. Where did the puppy go? There he is. Now I'm going to go into a bad example, and this shows a more deeper dialogue, and it's less age appropriate for board books. The canine temporarily disappears from the visual perception before suddenly reappearing. Now, the reason why this is not a good idea for board books is because the uses of words should be shorter, more playful phrases, and it has to have simple repetition. It's a bad example because it's too complex for this age group. And usually children at this age, they do not speak with like the canine temporarily disappeared. They're more simplistic, understandable, fun usage of words. The picture books are usually a little bit more um, upscale with the language that they use, but it's still, you keep it at an age appropriate language that the child can understand, and usually they'll pick up on what it is that you're trying to get across in your story. A good example for picture books will be Tommy's kite soared high above the trees. Wow, he shouted. It's a flying like a bird. Now, the bad example of this age group, for this age group, will be Tommy observed the trajectory of his airborne object. It appears to mimic avian movements, he remarked. And this is a bad example because you're not really engaging the child with the language that you're using. And it's bad because it's also overly sophisticated and it feels detached. Now, for early readers, a good example would be Anna wanted a pet, maybe a puppy, she said. Her dad smiled. Let's go to the pet store. Now, the bad example of the same sentence would be Anna pondered the notion of obtaining a domesticated animal companion, perhaps a canine of young age, she suggested. Her parental figure acknowledged her request. Very bad example because early readers should have shorter sentences and relatable dialogue. This is too sophisticated, for early readers. I mean, some may understand, but a lot of times this is too complex. The storytelling should be more simpler, informed, and exciting to read. Now we get into middle grade readers. This is from age 8 to 12. And at this age, usually they want more complex stories and more relatable stories and that relate to what's going on in their world because they're in school and they're dealing with different personalities and the teachers and the students that they're meeting, the friends that they're making. So a good example for the language usage for this grade level is Lim's heart pounded as he peered into the dark cave. If he wanted to find a treasure, he had to go inside. A bad example would be Lim is extremely nervous as he contemplates the dangers within a cave. Still, he desires to excuse me, if he desires the elusive treasure, he knew he must proceed forth. Middle graders usually don't talk like this unless they're like gifted or they're well read. They love to read, and sometimes these books and this type of language is too complicated for that specific age group. Middle grade stories need to be adventurous. This sounds adventurous, but it's more complex and the emotional state should be is strong, but again, it's too elaborate with the wording for this specific age group. Young adult books, ages 12 to 18. A good example would be she glanced at him, heart racing. Did he feel the same way? It was impossible to tell, but she only hoped. The bad example of this would be she directed her gaze at him, experiencing an elevated heart pulse rate. His sentiments remained ambiguous. That means she didn't know whether he liked her or not. Nevertheless, optimism lingers. The reason why this is not why this is a bad example for this specific age group is your writing should be emotional and intense and relatable. Not only that is this book too wordy, but it's too clinical. Now we get into adult fiction, ages 18 plus. A good example for the speech pattern would be Rebecca traced the rim of her coffee mug, the storm outside mirroring the uncertainty in her heart. What now? A bad example would be Rebecca methodically moved her fingertips along the circumference of the beverage container, observing the metallurgical conditions that bore resemblance to her psychological uncertainty. This right here, this is a bad example because even though it allows for deeper introspection and complexity, it should be remain engaging. This is very overly analytical. Now I'm going to go into the pros and the cons for writing for specific age groups. Your targeted engagement. When writing for specific age groups, you have to ensure, that the relatability and emotional connection is very connecting with your audience. Improved readability. You have to tailor your sentences and your vocabulary and a theme that makes your writing accessible and enjoyable. Your stronger emotional impacts, stronger emotional impact. When your theme aligns with that specific age group's experiences, the reader feels more invested and connected to your story. Marketability. Usually these books are well defined in your age range, and it's easier to market and reach the right audience that you're trying to reach. Developmental appropriate storytelling. You have to understand cognitive and emotional growth that ensures that your writing resonates with your intended audience. This is very important if you want to sell your books to a specific age group. Now I'll talk about the cons. Risk of oversimplification. For younger audiences, if you simplify it too much, it could make them feel like you're talking down to them, like you're condescending, and it gets boring too. Limits across age appeal. Writing for a specific age group means that the story might not attract a broader audience, and you don't want to do that. You want to focus on a specific audience that you're trying to capture. Keeping up with trends, especially with teens and young adults. You have to speak their language. Trends evolve so quickly, and it makes it challenging to stay relevant. But you have to study and relate to the children or the audience, the adults that you're trying to reach. But the trends are very, very important. Another con would be balancing the complexity of your story. For older age groups, adding depth without overcomplicating the narrative can be really tricky. Potential stereotyping is another con. You assume that all your readers in an age group share the same interests, and some of them don't. Some of the older adults um, may have different habits that lead to genetic or uninspired storytelling for your book, and it kind of might turn that specific person off because you're grouping them into a group that you assume would feel the same way about the story you're writing that a different group may feel differently about. Here are some strategies to overcome some of these challenges. When you're trying to keep a balance between your storytelling and your audience understanding, balancing simplicity and depth is very important. You have to keep language accessible, while maintaining an emotional depth into your story. An example for this is instead of oversimplifying a children's story, use engaging storytelling, and you also have to use repetition and rhyme and keep it fun and meaningful. You have to expand cross-age appeal, And a tip for this is you have to include universal French themes like friendships, identities, crisis, maybe, and some resilience that resonate beyond just a simple or a single age group. A good example is the Harry Potter uh, books. They engage, the adults, teens, and children, and the kids, because they have very strong themes and layered storytelling that, all of them us can relate to. Staying current with the trends. A tip for this would be you follow the trends in the media, their social culture and dialogues by reading, contemporary books and engaging with your targeted audience. Authors should also do research on teen slang, their social issues. It creates a more authentic and relatable character. Managing complexities in older age groups. A tip for this would be you could use rich but clear language. You should avoid excessive jargon or overly complex story structures. Example in an adult fiction can have, it can have intricate narratives, but you have to be clear in your storytelling to keep, the reader engaged rather than overwhelming them. Avoid stereotypes. A tip for this is instead of, generalizing all age group interests, represent a diverse perspective by incorporating various characters and experiences. Not all seniors like nostalgia. Some of them they enjoy more like modern tech, a lot of times travel, and they love learning new skills. I'd like to thank you for watching my channel and also let you know I have another book out. It's called The Stink Monster, and you can order it at Barnes and Nobles as well as the Haunted Toy Store. Also, you can order it at Barnes and Nobles. So really, I would like to thank you for watching my channel. If you like what you've seen in this video, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, write them down. And that way I can see what I can bring to you next time in my next videos. Again, thank you for watching Right with Mona and have a great day.